it wrong sometimes, or we get it right, you agree with us, so we'll take anything. Really, just interact with us. We'd be so happy to do so. Yes, please. Okay, so now that we've completed, what we'd like to do is just do a quick recap about what we have been reading a little bit and get on in to Jubilees today. And right now we are talking about Abraham. He's sat down and kind of sent all his other kids away except for Isaac. And he's explaining a lot to Isaac about how to perform sacrifices, how to have salt there and its purpose, what wood to use for the sacrifices, and giving him specific instructions. Again, don't drink the blood, and which has come up more often in the scriptures than in this Apocrypha than I would have thought.
Yeah, he's doing his dad duty.
His dad duties of teaching. So good on him. So
we haven't seen a whole lot.
No, we haven't actually seen a lot of actual dad-son teaching moments, but that's what happened in chapter 21. Yep. And today we're in chapter 22, and apparently we're going to be celebrating this time around. And in the very beginning, it was told that during Noah's time, there are certain festivals that needed to be happening and certain times for all of it. So, and yes, sometimes they're putting in like new festivals. So let's see what they will be celebrating today.
Yes.
Here we go. And in verse 1, and it came to pass in the first week in the 44th Jubilee, in the second year, that is, the year in which Abraham died, that Isaac and Ishmael came from the well of the oath to celebrate the Feast of Weeks, that is, the feast of the first fruits of the harvest, to Abraham their father, and Abraham rejoiced because his two sons had come. For Isaac had many possessions in Beersheba, and Isaac was wont to go and see his possessions and to return to his father. And in those days Ishmael came to see his father, and they both came together, and Isaac offered a sacrifice for a burnt offering, and presented it on the altar of his father, which he had made in Hebron. All right, so Abraham hasn't died yet, but this year Abraham will die.
Yeah,
right.
It's a foretelling.
It's a little foretelling there. And we get the well of the oath again, that landmark.
Yeah.
And Abraham's happy that his two sons have come, but it's Isaac who actually does the burnt offering, not Ishmael.
Well, we don't know that Ishmael's been taught.
I know, right? So Ishmael was the kid. He was his son, and then he sent him off with Hagar into the wilderness, into the desert. And then in the desert, they're saved. And eventually Ishmael grows up. It doesn't really tell us fully where and all had that happened to Ishmael, but he's now come to honor his father.
Well, and there was in this Apocrypha a time when God... What I think is interesting is and maybe it's just because I'm a stinker pop. If someone told me I was going to carry on Dad's name and I was going to be a great person and blah, 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 I'd be I could see myself being a little full of myself. But here we show it says that Isaac just offered a sacrifice unto God for thanking him for his father. And that's just like, I think maybe it shows a little bit of the fact that Isaac might have the right idea of
might be an okay guy.
How to, not make everybody else around them think that they're submissive, should be submissive to him, that he's superior.
Right.
And I don't know, when you read that, that's what I thought. Oh, maybe he's not so much of a stinker pot.
Maybe.
As he could be.
And I like that it said that Ishmael, that they came together.
Yeah.
When he came to see his father. So it's kind of this nice little reunion moment. The boys were raised with each other to a degree.
Yeah.
Up to a certain point.
Up to a point, yeah.
So they probably feel like brothers, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I can imagine. So I like to think of them as being like, we're brothers, unless anything else happens. So.
Yeah. Maybe for right now.
Right, for right now. Verse 4.
Right. Okay. And he offered a thank offering and made a feast of joy before Ishmael, his brother, and Rebekah made new cakes from the new grain and gave them to Jacob, her son, to take them to Abraham, his father, from the first fruits of the land, that he might eat and bless the Creator of all things before he died. And Isaac too sent by the hand of Jacob to Abraham a best thank offering, that he might eat and drink. And he ate and drank and blessed the Most High God, who hath created heaven and earth, who hath made all the fat things of the earth, and gave them to the children of men, that they might eat and drink and bless their Creator.
Nice.
So that sounds like maybe that was a prayer or a blessing.
Right.
by Abraham.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of what he said as he was given these things.
Okay, so remind me,
Mm-hmm.
Jacob, is that another one of Abraham's sons?
No, so
Or is that one of Isaac?
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. 3 generations.
Okay,
So
that's what I
Jacob-
thought, but I wanted to be reminded.
Yep. So Jacob is the one. Remember, there's Jacob and Esau, and
Yeah.
Esau was born first, but Jacob has been given at least his mom has been given the information that Jacob is the one to carry it on, because remember, Abraham liked Jacob more
yeah,
than Esau, because Esau is like a woodsy kind of guy out there fighting and all of that.
He's more like a quote real man.
Yeah.
Rather than being a man of God like Jacob kind of is.
Yes.
From what we heard, he was a man of God.
Yes. So that is a nice blessing to have happen. And I think it's interesting that as part of the feast, the cakes were made from the new grain, and he was given some of the first fruits. And it was like all these things to honor Abraham.
It's kind of like their tithing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like their tithing pieces, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because you're supposed to give of the first fruits. And,
yes, you are.
And first flocks for tithing. You're supposed to, the new grain, that's what you're supposed to be giving for tithing. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that it has this, to me, it feels like this little connotation of something in that realm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
okay.
And 7, and now I give thanks unto thee, my God, because thou hast caused me to see this day. Behold, I am 163 years, an old man and full of days, and all my days have been unto me peace. The sword of the adversary has not overcome me in all that thou hast given me and my children all the days of my life until this day. My God, may thy mercy and thy peace be upon thy servant and upon the seed of his sons, that they may be to thee a chosen nation and an inheritance from amongst all the nations of the earth, from henceforth unto all the days of the generations of the earth, unto all the ages. Okay, so that's a lot of generations.
That's some more prayer. Yeah.
And that's some more prayer here, and it's all about giving thanks.
Yeah, again, we see Abraham's relationship to God, that he has always loved God and always done what God has wanted, and has always thanked him for everything he has, and he is still continuing to do so.
And it's interesting here, the sword of the adversary has not overcome me. We know that he had trials. I mean, his wife, before she was Sarai, gets taken, and he has to go get her. And he's had, his family's, his extended family has been full of idolatry, and his brothers died, but it's that it has not overcome him.
Right.
Even when it came to possibly sacrificing his son Isaac, he was not overcome by the adversary. I love that, because he really trusted in God.
Yeah. Well, I love the word overcome me in that statement, because what he's saying is, with your help, I was able to withstand everything that the adversary sent.
Yes.
Right? I didn't succumb to any of it.
Correct.
And basically what he's saying is it's because of you.
Yep.
Right? He acknowledges that he's had trials and tribulations, and that they didn't come from God, they came from the adversary, but that with God, he was able to overcome all of that. And I love him remembering that and putting that in his prayer.
I agree. Nice. I think we're going to get more of talking to people, and because this is Abraham's deathbed moment.
It seems like it, yeah.
His last meal, almost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he knows He's close.
He knows he's close.
So it kind of sounds like he is saying, in a way, saying his goodbyes because all of his children came together.
Right.
All right, are we ready to
Yes, 10.
see what happens next? Okay. And he called Jacob and said, "My son Jacob, may the God of all bless thee and strengthen thee to do righteousness, and his will be for him, and may he choose thee and thy seed, that ye may become a people for his inheritance, according to his will always. And do thou, my son Jacob, draw near and kiss me." And he drew near and kissed him, and he said, "Blessed be my son Jacob, and all the sons of God Most High, and all the ages, unto all the ages. May God give unto thee a seed of righteousness, and some of thy sons may he sanctify in the midst of the whole earth. Many nations serve thee, and all the nations bow themselves before thy seed. Be strong in the presence of men, and exercise authority over all the seed of Seth. Then thy ways and the ways of thy sons will be justified, so that they shall become a holy nation. Exercise authority over the seed of Seth."
Seth was
That is interesting.
Yeah, I know, but Seth was the one after Abraham, or sorry,
Carried on.
after Adam,
Adam.
that was the righteous seed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that he harkens back to bygone ages, a bygone era of time, but that really is where the righteous seed came from. It came from Seth.
Yeah, and that's what Abraham wants to keep perpetuating.
Yes,
is that
does.
seed of righteousness, right?
That came. Because we're going to admit, not all of the seed on the earth at this point is righteous.
Exactly. I thought it was interesting when he said, "Draw near and kiss me." And he drew near and kissed him. And then he said, "Blessed be my son Jacob." It sounds a little like, you remember before when they were talking, him and his wife, no, not his wife, Rebecca, and him were talking. It's kind of like, you talk Isaac into it, and I'll be there, and I'll step in or whatever. And it's kind of like, okay, come here, give me a kiss. And then he's close enough, he puts his hands on his head and gives him a blessing.
Right. I can picture that. I can
see that from that. Just from that little talk in I don't know, I think it was chapter 20 that they talked about this. And they were kind of conniving. How was he going to be able to perpetuate it through Jacob instead of Esau?
Right.
And that was this kind of, I can just kind of see him say, "Oh, he's close enough," and give him a blessing, right? Sneaky. Who knew Abraham was sneaky?
I could see him doing that.
Yeah. Well, it seems a perfect
opportunity to put the blessing fully upon him and have Jacob know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And he continues. A lot of this chapter is his blessing.
It's his blessing to Jacob.
He continues here in 13. May the Most High God give thee all the blessings wherewith he has blessed me, and wherewith he blessed Noah and Adam. May they rest on the sacred head of thy seed from generation to generation forever. And may he cleanse thee from all unrighteousness and impurity, that thou mayest be forgiven all the transgressions which thou hast committed ignorantly. And may he strengthen thee and bless thee, and mayest thou inherit the whole earth. And may he renew his covenant with thee, that thou mayest be to him a nation for his inheritance for all the ages, and that he may be to thee and to thy seed a God in truth and righteousness, throughout all the days of the earth. Okay.
That's some powerful
Yep.
blessings. It sounds a little bit like, my father's getting a little older, and he talks about past generations more than he did before.
Yeah.
And it kind of sounds like that. He's talking about Noah and Adam and Seth and what's happened in the past. I think that's a normal thing.
It is.
That happens once people start to get to that place where they know it's not wrong. And they do seem to talk a lot more about the people in the past of their life to those of us that are currently in their life.
Well, and when you have these experiences as a people, like it's very common in the scriptures to read, have you forgotten what God has done for Moses and the people coming out of Egypt?
Right,
have you forgotten this event that shows that you are God's people?
Yeah.
And so this to me also kind of harkens into that realm of, hey, Adam, Noah, all of this righteousness, like God will strengthen you and has strengthened us since those times. So this really big, this is eternity here. Throughout all the days of the earth, all of the days, not some of them, all of them. So
he's not forgetting the past.
No.
And he, even though knows he's coming to his end, he is looking forward to the future.
Yep.
I think that's really interesting.
And
all right.
He continues in his prayer.
He says, "And do thou, my son Jacob, remember my words, and observe the commandments of Abraham thy father. Separate thyself from the nations, and eat not with them. And do not according to their works, and become not their associate. For their works are unclean, and all their ways are a pollution and an abomination and uncleanness. They offer their sacrifices to the dead, and they worship evil spirits, and they eat over the graves, and all their works are vanity and nothingness. They have no heart to understand, and their eyes do not see what their works are, and how they err in saying to a piece of wood, Thou art my God, and to a stone, Thou art my Lord, and Thou art my deliverer, and they have no heart." Again, he goes back to the idol worshiping that was around him as he was growing up all of his life.
Yes, and is still around.
It's around, but hopefully it's not in his household, right?
So the eat over the graves can refer to the practice of bringing food to a grave site to honor the deceased. A lot of cultures have that as a tradition. But I think it's interesting. They offer sacrifices to the dead. They worship evil spirits. They eat over the graves, giving, offerings basically on the graves. And all their works are vanity and nothingness. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, they're giving offerings to the wrong thing.
Yes.
They are giving them to the people that have passed away rather than to God.
Yes.
And so that's why they're evil and they're nothingness.
The nothingness here. He really has seen his society of the time just be completely, from his perspective, completely wicked. They are not understanding God. They're not seeing it. And because he has found God and has been obedient to him, he would love his children, or at least one of his children, to carry that on and to understand the God that is real, that was the father of Adam, who breathed life into him, that these things are real and they have meaning, and This is the first time, though, where I think we get him saying to Jacob, and you need to not even be around these people.
That's what I was going to say. It's interesting that he says, separate thyself from the nations and eat not with them. Because I think sometimes, well, in the past, we have been, as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, been, I don't know what the word is, accused of thinking we're more important or we're better than everybody else because we kind of keep ourselves separated from everybody else. It's not that way so much anymore, but everybody would say you shouldn't do that. You know, whatever, you bring problems on yourself. But I'm wondering if that's actually true. Maybe we should be keeping ourselves separate from the rest of the world. Maybe we should be more involved in those things that we believe in and less involved in the world. And actually, our prophet has kind of asked us that in his latest the latest post that they had on the conference website. It says, put down all the distractions and come to conference. Put your phones down, put your computers down, come to conference. So sometimes I wonder if we should be less involved in the world as we are striving to be more of God, more like God's people in our lives. I've never found, like in scripture, and I put that in quotes because not all of this is true. So to speak. Not all of it is available for canonization, I guess is what I should say, because some of it is true. But I've never seen it where it's kind of like right in your face, separate yourself from the nations. Right. Maybe we should be separating ourselves a little bit more from the world.
Well,
the way the world does things.
Well, it's interesting because we know further down the road, it became very much the Jewish faith coming through Jacob here. You can't mix with the Gentiles at all.
Right.
Everyone else were Gentiles. And when Christ came, he sat down with everyone and was like, I can eat with Gentiles and sinners and all of this. However, I think there's a thinking about that. Christ was able to do that because he was obedient and perfect. And as I try to do that, I'm influenced by the culture and ideas around me.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. I was going to say you can do it, but you have to be the one in charge of your choices and what you do and your thinking, and not allow them to influence you and make you change, as you are still trying to strive to be like God. So I can see that. I'm not saying that we don't have friends in other religions or anything, but maybe pulling back from some of the things the world does, like having your kids in like 5 different activities, keeping yourself so busy that can you really think about your Savior all the time like you promised you would at your baptismal covenant? And I'm just as guilty. I'm just saying.
It makes you think.
It makes me think that when the church did begin to tell us, and I think it was President Hinckley, that we need to, come out of our groups that we have and go out and be in our cities and with our neighbors and stuff like that. I'm not saying that was wrong, but I don't know that we, as members of the church, understood how to do that without being pulled away from the gospel.
Well, and maybe that's why President Hinckley was inviting us to do that, is so that as a group of people who, well, I know we're bold as we state that we are part of the true church that is on the earth. I know that's a bold statement for a lot of people. For us to then be a part of our communities, we bring an influence then, or we can bring in a good influence.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was that, hey, maybe if we go out there, we can be that tide of change per se of
Yeah.
of elevating and bringing people to maybe not necessarily an understanding of God, but be examples of what it means to be a Christian.
Well, I think it took us out of the shadows.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. I'm just saying, I don't know that we, as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, actually understood what he really meant. He didn't mean go out and be with your neighbors and then become Catholic.
Yes.
Don't go out and be with your neighbors and then begin to drink or begin to argue about little things of the church that make you walk away from your testimony. That's not what he said.
No.
We were supposed to go out and be the examples of how a good citizen of the country would strive to blend their world with their religion.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I just looked at that and I thought, well, I don't think it's going to be far that we're going to be pulling back from the world because it's going in a place where a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints can't go.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, no, here we go. As we continue in this prayer with from Abraham to Jacob. 19. And as for thee, my son Jacob, may the Most High God help thee, and the God of heaven bless thee, and remove thee from their uncleanness and from all their error. Be thou ware, my son Jacob, of taking a wife from any seed of the daughters of Canaan, for all his seed is to be rooted out of the earth. For, owing to the transgression of Ham, Canaan erred, and all his seed shall be destroyed from off the earth, and all the residue thereof, and none springing from him shall be saved on the day of judgment. Ouch.
Okay. I don't know if I've heard that, but I probably have heard it, but it never really stuck in my head that the people of Canaan are descendants of Ham.
Yeah, because remember, Canaan is Ham's kid. Canaan Ham's kid? Because this is where, in the biblical story of Noah, the transgression of Ham involves seeing his father Noah drunk and naked and then revealing to his brothers rather than covering his father's shame. We had a whole discussion about that.
Yeah, we did. I forgot. Yeah.
And we believe that then Canaan came from
Noah cursed Canaan.
That Noah cursed Canaan, and Canaan was one of Ham's children. And they went off, and the land of Canaan was not known for good things. But this here, it becomes very stated, and all of his seed shall be destroyed from off the earth.
Yeah, but I think what here is the difference is they're not talking about the land of Canaan. They're talking about the person Canaan, because they said the daughters of Canaan. And maybe they did live in Canaan, don't get me wrong, but they are talking about a person rather than the land. When at first, that's when you were talking or reading,
you were thinking
I was thinking of the land of Canaan.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe the people in the land of Canaan are not descendants of Ham. We're just talking about Canaan himself. Okay.
Yes. So the daughters of the actual Canaan, and for owing to the transgression of Ham, Canaan then erred. And we know that the land of Canaan is not known for good things, and it's named after Canaan because he founded it. So the whole area has got a problem.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is we're still intermarrying.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I thought there would be enough people that we weren't intermarrying.
Yeah, well, right here, don't take any of the seed of the daughters of Canaan. I mean, they would be distantly related per se, but all those people are somewhat related to degrees. I mean, they all came from three children of Noah.
Yeah. Well, 3 sons. We don't know about the daughters.
Sorry, the 3 sons of Noah. So it's just
sorry. I just don't want to forget the women in there.
No,
even though they're
You're
not
good.
talking about a lot. But there are women in there.
But it's just interesting that it is so like, do not touch the women of Canaan. Yeah. Don't take them to wife. Like they're springing from shall be saved as, and none shall be saved on the day of judgment. Wow. Whew. That is tough on that one. Okay.
So if that is the case.
Yeah. I know.
My question is, if that is the case, my question is, does that mean that in the end? No, because they have that. Everybody else would just be the descendant of the rest of Noah's kids, because they still had to come through Noah, who can't, because he had other kids. So everybody on the earth at the time of the judgment, they will be from his other children, not through Ham's line.
And just to give you kind of an idea, genetic studies suggest that a significant portion of the Levantine population, including modern Lebanese, share a strong genetic link to the ancient Canaanites, with over 90% of their ancestry traced back to this ancient group. Because they've gone in and they've been able to analyze ancient DNA recovered from Canaanite skeletons. And of course, not only with the Lebanese population, other groups in the region, including Jewish and Arabic-speaking populations, also show a significant Canaanite genetic component, which means that they were intermarrying.
Yeah, and I was going to say, well, of course, because there is intermarrying.
Yes, but they were told in this group not to, but, later on.
Well, also, when you have a family, just because you're going to try and isolate everybody from one son doesn't mean you're not going to find the genetics that would fit that same son in the rest of the population that may have never gone through that son's line, because he has some of the same genetics as his siblings do. And this takes us to, and I guess I don't have to say it, but there's a lot of people who have said that Ham was of the darker skin.
So what is that fully? I just find it all interesting.
Yeah. Well, the Lebanese are really dark.
Yes, they are.
That doesn't make them bad people. I'm just saying they're really dark. If they're assuming that his family line comes through the Lebanese, they are darker skinned. In the people from that area.
Yes, they are. I'm like looking at pictures. They're a little darker. I mean, I had a teacher in high school who was Lebanese. So,
I mean, if you marry into a line of more white chromosomes, you're going to be lighter and lighter as you go along, right? But
yeah, that's true.
If you get like a completely Lebanese person, they are quite a bit darker than your person from Jerusalem that has pure lines there.
Oh, wow. Actually, the Lebanese race is considered to be white by the United States Census Bureau.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm looking at modern day pictures, and they are more light-skinned than my teacher in high school.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right. Well, ignore Myrna.
I had a teacher in high school, and I'm picturing her, and I'm looking at these pictures and going, "Oh, she was darker than this." So,
yeah,
interesting.
Huh.
See, you
Okay.
learn things as you go along.
Yeah.
So, part of it was, though, obviously, do not mix. Do your best. Do not mix
At this time. Yep.
at this time. Okay, verse 22 should be
Yeah, me.
you or me. Which is it? I think it's you.
Me, because I think you're the one
Yes.
that read about Canaan.
Okay.
22.
22.
Which is kind of hard to read, but I'm going to do it the best I can.
There's a list.
Yeah. And as for all the worshipers of idols and the profane, now you know how okay, I got to explain this. When you're making a list, you'll
An
label
outline.
them sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So they have them labeled. So I'm going to say the label and then the list of what they're talking about. So this is about the worshipers of idols and profane. It says B, I don't know where A went, but B, there shall be no hope for them in the land of the living. C, and there shall be no remembrance of them on the earth. We have another C, for they shall descend into Sheol. And D, and unto the place of condemnation shall they go. As the children of Sodom were taken away from the earth, so will all those who worship idols be taken away. Fear not, my son Jacob, and be not dismayed, O son of Abraham. May the Most High God preserve thee from the destruction, and from all the passive error may he deliver thee. This house have I built for myself, that I might put my name upon it in the earth. It is given to thee and to thy seed forever, and it will be named the house of Abraham. And it is given to thee and to thy seed forever, for thou wilt, build my house and establish my name before God forever. Thy seed and thy name will stand throughout all generations of the earth.
Okay.
Thou wilt build my house. He already built his house. I think it just means you will grow my posterity.
Mm-hmm. It will grow into the future. Well, that is quite the blessing. And of course, remember again, Sheol is the abode of where people go when they die.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like hell, in the netherworld. So
yeah.
See, it's interesting because on the one hand, he has the faith and he has this relationship with God, and yet he is doing a prayer, a blessing on his son, saying, and from all the passive error, may he deliver thee. It's a prayer here. Please deliver him. Please deliver Jacob. He's asking his God to please preserve this child and his generations from the problems that he sees around him.
Yeah.
I don't know how well that worked.
I don't know.
It'd be interesting to have Abraham answer that question. He died so long ago, and now he's watched from a different perspective all of his generations. And I can imagine he's like, I wonder how he perceives that. Did it go well? Did it not? Like,
was it what he thought?
Was it what he thought? Or has he seen as people have died and have reunited with him Has there just been rejoicing all the time that there have been righteousness? There has been righteousness as
Right.
the world has gotten more wicked.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think of that about my ancestors that have passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they were to look down at our family now,
Mm-hmm.
would it be what they thought it was going to be?
Right.
Would those that have gave up a lot to join the church
Mm-hmm.
is what the ancestors have done with the family name and everything come back to them as being worth it?
It's a good
Right.
question. I do appreciate societies who have traditions with their ancestors, like the Japanese culture.
Yeah.
They think about them and they consider their actions to honor their family.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for that because they're thinking of it as generations and they know the stories of older generations and they are trying to honor them and they don't want to dishonor a family name. I think there's something good in that because here it is thinking about a different type of perspective, as in when you pass on, you hope that your life and example would have an effect on that next generation and then therefore the next generation and so on and so forth.
Right.
I just don't think in American society we think about it enough.
No, I don't think we do.
I
don't think we do. In fact, I think we just kind of throw things aside and don't think about them. It's kind of like if you go to South America, if they go to redo their city, and like in Salt Lake, where there was a picture of Brigham Young, a statue of Brigham Young in the middle of the road.
Right.
We moved it. Right. But they just built around it.
Yes.
Because they remember they've made a what we call a roundabout. They just made a roundabout around it, and they didn't move it, and they won't ever move it. It's part of their society and their remembrance of how they came to be who they are and what they are.
Right.
And a lot of countries are like that.
Yes, they are.
But we are not.
No, we are not.
We're lucky that they moved it. But I think it's because of the church that it was kept. It was just moved.
Right.
Other countries probably would have. If it wasn't our church, other groups probably would have just gotten rid of it.
Right. I just find it interesting because he's talking here so much about generations of time.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because of the high immigration numbers of even really starting in the US that they didn't have that contact with people that were in the old world. Or if they did, it took a very long amount of time. And as technology and stuff happened, I still see that there are lots of people who are like, I don't even know the names of my grandparents, right? They don't know the stories of their grandparents. And that's just one generation. That's like mom and dad. Sometimes they don't know their story. And so I think it's interesting here that Abraham is really looking for something more than just him. He's looking for this to be what God has promised him, that it will go out and he'll be the father of a great nation. Both his sons will be Ishmael and Jacob. Sorry, Ishmael and Isaac will be fathers of those generations, and Jacob's that next one down. I don't know. There's just something to it, and maybe it's just partial to me because I grew up not having grandparents, and so I've only learned about them as stories.
Right.
And so it's of worth to me because all these other people that I know get to have these relationships, and I haven't been able to have that. that I can understand how highly prized it must be.
Yeah. I also see it as being Abraham knows the blessing that he's been given from God.
Yeah.
And he's going to do everything he can to make it come to fruition.
Yes, very
so
true.
He is blessing his children. He is
Very
reminding them. He is making sure they understand, because he knows he's going soon. He's going to make sure that it is out there, and he's done everything he can to make it come to fruition with God's help the rest of the way.
Yep. He's doing his part. Okay. Shall we continue here? 25.
Let's do it. Mm-hmm.
And he being Abraham, and he ceased commanding him and blessing him. And the two lay together on one bed, and Jacob slept in the bosom of Abraham, his father's father, and he kissed him 7 times, and his affection and his heart rejoiced over him. And he blessed him with all his heart and said, the Most High God, the God of all and creator of all, who brought me forth from Ur of the Chaldees, that he might give me this land to inherit it forever, and that I might establish a holy seed. Blessed be the Most High forever. That's a sweet scene right there.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So he's laying on his grandfather's chest, and they're in the bed because I assume Abraham is not doing well and he can't really get up and about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they just had an affection for each other. I think that's a wonderful generational moment.
Yeah. I don't think that's abnormal when it comes to someone passing on. I crawled in the bed of my grandma at the hospital and laid with her for a while. It's not anything, but just wanting to have one more moment with them, because you don't know when that last moment's going to be.
Correct.
And just that they both do love God, and they both do thank him for being able to have all that they have from him. They haven't forgotten him. It's beautiful. Okay. And we'll finish here. And he blessed Jacob and said, my son, over whom with all my heart and my affection I rejoice. For thy grace and thy mercy be lifted up upon him and upon his seed always. And do not forsake him, nor set him at naught from henceforth unto the days of eternity. And may thy eyes be open upon him and upon his seed, that thou mayest preserve him and bless him, and mayest sanctify him as a nation for thine inheritance. And bless him with all thy blessings from henceforth unto all the days of eternity, and renew thy covenant and thy grace with him and with his seed, according to all thy good pleasure unto all the generations of the earth.
The final, what's the word here? The final reminder. Like one last little, he did this huge blessing and direction to him, and he gets one final moment. Do not forsake him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, sometimes we read this Apocrypha and we think, what the crap? And other times we read it and like right now, and it's like, how could it be any more beautiful? This man being ready to meet his maker and having a emotional, intimate experience with his grandson to be able to help him to understand the need he has for him, the grandson, to continue his posterity and continue to teach the things that he believes of God.
Yeah. It's his final testimony.
Yeah. It's just so interesting to me that we go through like roller coasters with this Apocrypha. It's
Yeah.
like sometimes you want to say, all right.
All right. What
Someone
was
was
that?
smoking something when they wrote this because someone was just not thinking really well. And other times it's like, oh, that's so good. I love it.
Mhm.
So there, it's just up and down.
Well, it
sometimes
just
with this, but it's
humanizes.
human.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it humanizes Abraham. It
Mhm.
humanizes him into being a father, a grandfather, knowing that he's reached the end of his life. He's lived a long time. The ups and downs that we've read in just the stories we have. I mean, he had a life. We just read about a few distinct moments in that life.
Yeah.
Not his day to day. And to just finally finish it here in a moment of, I guess, truly Jubilee. Celebration in his heart for everything, and
Yeah.
knowing that he is going to be meeting his maker in whom
Right.
he has trusted. He will know Abraham, and because Abraham knows him.
Right. Yep.
Maybe it hits me because I'm just getting older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So.
I don't know. It's interesting that we have this. To me, this is like one of the most noticeable relationships with God that I have seen in any scripture.
Yeah, agreed.
Right? I mean, even what we have of this story in the Bible, to me, doesn't show this level of relationship that he had with God. He truly loved him. He truly knew him.
Yep.
And he wanted to do everything he could to set his posterity up for success in knowing their Savior also, their Heavenly Father and Savior also. So to me, that is heartwarming to have actually have an example of a relationship with God that we don't really find in Scripture,
except with Jesus Christ and his Father.
Mm-hmm. But we don't have. I don't know.
Stories.
We don't have this level. We have him praying to him a lot, but it's not this.
Well, the interesting thing here is that with Christ, we don't get generations.
Yeah.
We don't get the generations of his father and what that was like, and we don't get Christ's posterity. He's in the middle.
Yeah.
And so, but we do get that he has a relationship with his father. But here you're right with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. I feel like I understand more why we put those three names together. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because of that relationship Abraham had with God to even have Isaac, and then that relationship Abraham had with Jacob and Isaac had with Jacob, which maybe we'll see a little bit more about. I don't know, you just get this feeling of tightness, and they are all trying to serve God in the way that they've been taught from God.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting.
I agree.
Well, we're done with that chapter.
All right. So, man, some powerful stuff today with Abraham blessing his grandson, Jacob. Whew. All right. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed the conversation today. And as we're working our way through Jubilee here, talking more about Abraham. And as you can see, he's on his deathbed right now. I'm going to assume the next chapter probably deals with his death and burial. So we'll be talking about that next week. As for right now, if you enjoyed what you heard today and the conversations we've had, you've been touched, affected, you've been enlightened in some way, some neurons were connecting in your brain, please like and subscribe and send the link to a friend who you think might be like, I haven't read the Apocrypha before.
Yeah.
I'll join them. Start with us now. Go back to the past videos. We'd be happy to have you next week. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining and finding us. We'll see you again. Bye.
Yeah. And remember, Apocrypha
Apocrypha
rules. All right.
It does. Bye.